Okay, good day, everybody. Welcome to Live Work webinar. This one is around how we measure and manage design, and is part of a series of webinars we've been running this year around the theme of change, the way you change. So I'm Ben Reason. I'm the design director at LiveWork, and I'm joined from my team by Cassia in Sao Paulo, who's a partner over there, and Christina here in London, who's one of our senior service designers. And we're also very happy to have Louise from Novo Nordisk, who's we've been working with, who's also a service designer, and Jackson from EQI, as in an English pronunciation, who's the head of customer experience for them over in Brazil, and we'll be hearing from all of these folk shortly. So just to let you know, what we do here is we have a Q&A at the end of the session. If you have questions as they occur during the case studies, please pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on them and then pick questions out to ask the team towards the end. We're already recording. Obviously, if it gets really exciting for you, let the internet know and see if anyone else wants to join. You can still do that. So let's make a start. So today, as I said, focusing on how to measure and manage. And we're going to talk through kind of two sides of that. So the first thing is for Christina and Louise to talk about setting up a metrics framework that is service design kind of oriented. So how do we define metrics that align with human experience, customer experience, in this case, employee experience? So creating a model that gives us a baseline to work with so that we can evaluate service design and prove its value, prove the contribution and impact. And then we want to talk about how that approach, a very similar approach, can be deployed in life, in delivery, when improvements have been made. So how can we pull together metrics and use them in the delivery of service improvements and performance monitoring? So that's a kind of summary of the agenda today. As I said, this is the third webinar we're running on this theme around change the way you change. So I just wanted to give you all a recap if you weren't here before. So LiveWork is talking about change from a design perspective, and we're aware that change is challenging and sometimes unsuccessful, and our position is that design is a valuable contributor to that. Some of the background to why we think that is having read reports from elsewhere that talk about how change programs fail in the light of their success criteria, both from an employee point of view, but also from a customer point of view. So what our understanding here is a lot of these change initiatives that these companies or these reports are studying are failing or not delivering their expectation because they're not considering the humans involved in that change, whether they're the customers whose services are changing or the employees who are part of delivering that. And as I hope you all know, human centricity, customer centricity being key kind of value of the design approach. So what we're not saying is that design is the only way to run change programs. We're also aware that there are large, well-established approaches to managing change, both from a kind of business point of view and from a technology point of view. So many of you will be involved in these things and have seen them take place. So obviously, to kind of reduce down the management approach to a kind of slightly pithy statement, but it's focusing on the business outcomes as being a priority and kind of very sharp, deliberate approach to get to that. And technology looking at change at how you can, with automation and scale and things. So our position, as I was saying, is that design is kind of the third leg of a change stool that brings in the people, the human factors, that are critical to success. That's because those, if we look at some studies from the Netherlands that talk about digging into those human reasons for change not being so successful, it's because certain things haven't been brought to bear around power or culture or behavior and relationships. And obviously, these are all very human factors within the mix. So how do we make sure that these kind of very different parts of that human experience and kind of human influence over change are taken into consideration? And the same study talks about the qualities that design has, its ability to integrate those different perspectives, to provide shape and tangibility to the future so that you have a future and a change that people are kind of line around, to maybe reframe the challenge or to bring in many ways creativity to bear on that, and to orchestrate the moving parts of it. So how do you pull together to create change? So we have a model for looking at what are all those factors are in, and if you bring design into the mix of how you manage change, so you bring design practice and you bring design structure in, how does it connect with the other parts of it? So and breaking that down. So our first webinar, which is on our website, if you want to talk about it, is about the overall case for change from a design point of view, as I've just whistle-stopped through. The second one, which we will be putting live soon, is around how do you actually bring design into the mix? So these pink boxes. And now we're going to look at, so that talks about how we integrate it, how we integrate design into a business, both horizontally and vertically. And now we're going to look at, how we look at measuring it. So what we're doing here is saying, okay, well, look, we can bring design in, we can bring all those qualities, but if we don't connect through to what organizations are targeting, what they value, their focus on proving that what's been done is successful, then we're going to miss a trick and we're going to miss an audience. So vital that if you're bringing a design approach in, you talk to that part of the business that is concerned with insight, measurement, and the management of change. So that's the focus that we have today. So just to finish off from me, I wanted to sort of talk about the fundamental model behind what we're talking about today. And it's about aligning our metrics to experiences. So how do we align what we're measuring to outcomes for the people that are there, the recipients of the beneficiaries of the service? So those might be customers, they might be citizens. So the model that we've developed over time is to make sure that we align metrics to the journeys that people are going on, and that those journeys are things where people are engaged and something is fulfilled. So it starts with a human need, and what we're looking at is how do we align that journey so it also starts with a business goal, and it ends with a human outcome and a business outcome. So one of the key things around our metrics approach is making sure that we align these things. And many times we've seen in our work that these things are misaligned, that what, let's say, customers think is an outcome of a particular journey is not what a business is measuring. So aligning around journeys is a kind of key part of the approach. So if you think about a very simple, very kind of common journey, like I need to get to the city from somewhere outside, from the airport or whatever, and the outcome of that is I have figured out which is the right way to go, and I have a ticket, in this case, for the train. And that aligns with a business goal. If the business is the train operator, they are aspiring to a full train and they have a ticket sold. So a very simple kind of illustration of that model, but to give you an idea about the kind of fundamentals behind how we've been approaching this. So I'm going to hand over to Christina and Louise to take us through the first of two case studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Hello, everybody. I'm Christina, Senior Service Designer at LiveWork London. The first case study that we will present today is the story of a quite recent collaboration between LiveWork and the People and Operations team at Novo Nordisk. I'm not going to do it by myself. together with me, we have the pleasure of having Louise, Senior Service Designer at Novo indeed, who's been so kind as to be happy to share the experience from her perspective. Maybe just a few words about Novo. Novo is a pharmaceutical company headquartered in Denmark, but operating at a global level that in the last couple of years has faced an unprecedented growth. Just to give you maybe one number, like around 10,000 of people like across the globe joined the company in 1 year only. So with that number in mind, imagine like the pressure that the HR team had to face as they had to keep selecting, attracting, hiring, managing, and retaining this army of new talents. And we're talking about a company needing to attract top scientists from all over the globe, yet taking up to kind of months to complete an hiring process. And next to the time dimension on speed, hiring managers also kind of needed to indeed being responsible for not only their day-to-day job and operations, but also kind of expanding and retaining their teams. So what we knew back then, what we saw back then, and Louise will tell you more about it, is that HR teams soon realized that their support structures and services and processes, as well as the digital tools, were not set up to be as efficient and effective as to keep up with such speed of growth and change. And apologies, there we go. So this is indeed the challenge that the HR team faced 2 years ago now. So how to recruit at scale, fast, without compromising on talent quality. And as a response, the HR team initiated a global program, on one end to kind of standardize and globalize the core processes, as well as to improve the overall customer and employees experience. And because, as the slide is saying, a change program is as successful as its ability to continuously evaluate the impact and adapt the course, the need was to kind of find a way to measure the effectiveness on the program on one end, and the enhanced and redesigned core services and processes throughout the implementation. In today's presentation, we are going to focus among the many core processes and services on specifically one, which was indeed the hiring process, as it was indeed the focus of the collaboration and the engagement. How it all started. So as we kicked off the engagement, few of the critical questions that we together had to address kind of sooner than later included questions like, okay, how will we know that the program goals are being delivered? What does even satisfaction mean or look like or feel like in the context of the hiring process, both for the candidates as well as for the hiring managers? What ongoing initiatives are impacting these outcomes, and how do we monitor those over time? And because our experience in designing measurement frameworks and like identifying metrics and answering such critical questions told us that it's far from being a kind of straightforward exercise. We engaged with all the roles and functions somewhat responsible and accountable for the delivery of such process, so the hiring process, from the get-go. And here there is like a snapshot of who they have been. So all the different delivery teams in different pockets of the organization, as well as like data analytics and data partner, process managers and experts, as well as people part of change functions. And as we did it, we kind of soon realized the I guess what you call abundance of operational dashboards. So all the different teams involved in indeed the delivery and maintenance of the process could rely on indeed plenty of data points, insights, evidence. They could rely on their own dashboards. And yet, on one end, there was not a single view telling a story of what the overall health of a service or a process was. And on the other, we also realized how indeed they could rely on these many data points, but on the other hand, data points were either too high level or generic, to lack depth in telling, okay, what do we need to fix then, or what do we need to improve then, or the why behind a specific data point, or to the other extreme, specific kind of interaction data describing how the employees, for example, would interact with a touch point, and yet too specific, as in, for example, the number of clicks, dropouts, completion rate. So either ways, to kind of connect the dots, we had to rely on all the different teams involved in the delivery and try to interpret those data and try to understand, okay, but what would make a hiring process a good hiring process from the perspective of the hiring managers, as well as from the perspective of the business and the operations. Or also, what's the reason behind kind of employees, for example, not completing a specific process via the digital tool that was designed for that. So really connecting the dots and asking and understanding the root cause of a problem. And because no metric is perfect, we grounded them in the desired outcomes. So drawing from the existing research, thanks to the amazing team, we were able to indeed start drafting assumptions around what makes a hiring process successful. On one end from the employees, and that is the desired effect that they want to achieve, and on the other on indeed the business and operations, as it reflects the strategic ambitions. And once we did it, we started kind of identifying the signals or indicators for each outcome, and that is indeed indicators of or indicators that would tell whether a specific outcome is achieved or not, again, for the employees, for the business, and for operations across all the steps in the journey, in the process. And finally, we teamed up with the data team to find metrics for each signal. Overall, the work that we did was twofold. We tried to, on one end, by engaging with all the different functions, bring clarity and getting alignment around, okay, but what constitutes a good hiring process, hiring service in the eyes of all the people, all the actors involved, for the business and for the operations, as well as for the indeed the employees. I start detailing out kind of all the metrics that would cover indeed across the entire employee journey, hiring journey. And on the other end, setting up a service monitoring tool that would indeed serve the teams to ground the kind of decisions into evidence, again, mapped across the journey. And I'm curious to hear Luis' perspective.
Yes, thank you, Christina. I'm Luis. I'm a senior service designer from Novo Nordisk, and I'm very happy to be here to share some of our reflections and our great collaboration with Christina and her colleagues who helped us earlier in the beginning of this year with setting up this measurement framework. I'd like to start out by saying a bit about where we are now. And as Christina briefly mentioned, we are on a growth journey. We are this year, more than 10,000 people have joined the company, and we're growing with more than 50% in the number of employees. And that, of course, puts a lot of extra work on the shoulders of the hiring managers. And we need to, there's a lot of effort put into how we can support them, make it a good experience for managers, the candidates as well, applying for a job. We are working with a lot of new digital solutions to support that as well, new processes, customer journeys, and of course, having this measurement framework end to end, knowing how are we doing from along the customer journey from a data side is a natural step into this. We have some main areas in Novo who are part and supporting in the hire journey, and that is the we have our talent acquisition department. Of course, the recruiters are very much involved in hiring new candidates, and then we also have our support functions. And some of the challenges we see is that, of course, they have a lot of existing data and dashboards, and knowing how that's going. But we need this end-to-end overview so we can move towards a common goal across these COEs or silos or areas, as what you want to call them. We are not at a state yet where we have fully developed the dashboards. We are working on it. And if we move on to the next slides, then we have gathered some learnings on that journey after having this quite extensive overview of the metrics and what data points it is that we want to have in operation. And I think the challenge of taking that overview that is in a My report, very well thought through, a lot of great work, end to end, top to bottom, all the way through, and then translating that and getting that into Power BI or a similar tool with the data analytics team, keeping that momentum and continuously bringing the stakeholders on board to create this end-to-end dashboard. I think we face some challenges there. On a very practical note, on having it prioritized in the backlog of the data analytics team, not because it wasn't important, but because there was other things that had a higher priority. And I think that was, we had some dialogue, some stakeholder management to do around that. And we managed to now they're working on it now. And I think one of the pivoting points in that dialogue was when we started to talk about it in a different way. I think it's as service designers, you have a tendency to talk about good experiences, improving the experience of customer journeys, and it resonated a lot better with the leadership when we talked about it as it can support us to achieve the benefits of the projects, and talking into the risk and really what the value this could drive in terms of benefit realization. And that was that was a learning, and it worked surprisingly well when we took that approach to it. Another learning that we got, or maybe more of a reflection, is when we look back, it might have been interesting to see if we had started the development earlier. We spent some time on building the dashboard with numerous metrics, and this is the end goal, of course. But I wonder when we replicate this method to the next processes, if we could start building some MVP dashboards earlier on. And I'm at least curious to see if that could have made the need to get the buy-in at a later state unnecessary. Maybe we would have failed faster, or had some maybe a dashboard with the 10 top metrics on, and having this end-to-end view on the dashboard is the new part, and having built that early on, we have at least been reflecting on whether that would be an opportunity for the next process that we might apply this to. The higher process and the higher journey is just one of many in the people and organization department. Yes. So what's up next? We're looking very much forward, and we have high hopes, and really looking forward to have this measurement overview so we can see how we're doing on the higher journey. We expect to use it for decision making and prioritization. Could be backlog prioritization in the agile teams, supporting the higher process, but also on a more strategic level. We expect it to give more transparency across the different COEs, so we can make it more visible to everyone, and also a tool to hold stakeholders more accountable for their contribution to the process. And for instance, if we launch a new feature and we see numbers go up or down, then it's easier for us to know where to adjust. And that's not an overview that we necessarily have at that level today. And then, of course, ultimately, we want to or expect to improve the experience across all stakeholders, and that we will have that end-to-end view of how they perceive the hire journey. Yeah.
And just to wrap up the story of Novo, I guess the main takeaway or message that we indeed want to kind of give back is that as we were in the process of kind of defining outcomes and metrics, either new or existing ones, and kind of building the measurement framework, it has like the approach has profound implications in the way that, like, the organization operates, in the way people and teams evaluate their impact and the impact of their work. And we could see the kind of the potential of the approach was not about not only about the way in the way we established it, but also the fact that we indeed had that strategic conversation that Luis was mentioning, kind of on a daily, if not kind of weekly basis with the Novo team. And we've been lucky enough to work with a brilliant process expert and process owner at Novo, who in parallel was in the process of discussing and designing the governance structure to support this new way of making decisions, including designing roles and responsibilities, including designing rituals and designing the cadence of it, including building the right relationship. So I guess it's equally about building the infrastructure to make that a habit and part of the way the teams operate. And now is the next story.
Yeah, many thanks. Thanks again, Luis, for joining us. Thanks, Christina, for a great story. So I'm going to hand over to Cassia to take us through. So I guess further down the line where these kind of measurements are being used in the process of making improvements and monitoring that and proving success of a customer-centric design program. So take it away, Cassia.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. Thanks everyone for being here, for joining. I'm very curious to know where you're at, your location, and where you work, and what do you do, and if you've had similar challenges to ours. So if you feel comfortable with, and please share with us in the chat. I'll be happy to read here while I present. I'm not alone. Today I'm with Jackson, which is Head of Customer Experience at AKE. Talita, who was the project lead, is also here, and other team members who participated in this project. Really don't know why they asked me to present, but I hope I can tell the story well. And Jackson will also be here to answer a few questions at the end, if you have any. I hope you do. So just a brief introduction. AKE is a Brazilian investment advisory firm. And it was very good to hear what Christina and Luis presented so far, because my hope is to present the next step, right? So we came together with them to think the new service strategy and the metrics. And today I'm going to tell us the challenges of implementing this vision. Ben, if you can move to the next one. Thank you. So AKE came to us in 2022, and their goal was to rethink its value proposition, rethink their service strategies, because they wanted to scale, they wanted to grow. So they had already this strategy, they had made this decision, and they want us to support them how, right? And they knew by then that they had to fully understand their customers, to rethink, to help them rethink this value proposition and their services, but they also had to understand the advisors. So if we're thinking about an investment advisory firm, the advisors have a key role in getting this client in and working together alongside the client throughout their journey with AKE in their investment journeys to reach their goals, their objectives, their dreams, right? But by that time, they had a standardized service model for the different kinds of customers. And again, we're talking about customers that are just starting to invest, know nothing about it, and don't have many resources, to other kinds of clients that are on the completely other spectrum, right? With much more knowledge, different expectations, different resources. So their needs and expectations were very different, and AKE served them with the standardized model. So in the next slide, I don't have control over the screen. I don't know what happened. So Ben is going to support me. Just so you understand the path of the project, I'm not going to dive in because Christina and Luis presented it very well and have many similarities with the project that we did. But number one was to understand this user journeys. So we're talking about the customer journey, the advisor journey, but also understand what it meant for AKE to grow and to scale. What was their vision for the future? And then with that understanding, we then co-created the new value proposition in the service offers, right? So we wanted to move from a standardized model to a multiple model to cater to the different kinds of clients. And then with that in mind, we went to number 3, which was we used the blueprint, the service blueprint, to outline the path for transformation. So in the blueprint, we were able to connect this future vision with the customer story. What was the journey to be, with the operational story and with the business story. So connecting with what they presented on the previous case. Next. So this is what we had in the blueprint, right? This future journey with the target experience, the new touch points. And on the backstage, we had the actions for the different areas, the systems and tools that they would have to put in place, develop by, or just continue to use, and the business and experience metrics, and then all the different solutions that they will have to make happen to deliver this new vision, this new future journey. Next one. We use the same metric model as Christina and Luis presented. So we understood outcomes, and then from that we defined the signals and the metrics, right? Here is just an example from entry and onboarding, but we use the same model. Next, please. And with the blueprint, with all the metrics and the solutions, we grouped the solutions in structuring projects. So solutions that had similar outcomes or would contribute to the same goal, we structured them in this larger project, so to say. I'm going to present the examples I'm going to showcase today are within one of these projects, which is AKE Radar. Next. But all this vision, this connection, this blueprint, it really helped AKE to have a common language. So they were looking at the same thing and how all the different aspects were connected, right? Looking at the customer, the operation, and the business. And this was serving as the baseline to support them in improving the customer experience, connecting with the business goals. So remember, they wanted to scale, they wanted to grow, and they wanted to serve better. Next. So now we come to the fourth pillar, which is maybe the harder one, which is AKE's job to take this out of the paper and turning it a reality, right? So then we come into the main story of today. If we can move to the next one. When doing that, so they had the blueprint, they had the single vision, they had the different projects, but to take these projects, to turn them into reality, they faced two main challenges. One was to initiate and manage, because there were many projects, and they had to engage people, and they had to define timelines and goals, etc. And the other challenge was to refine current indicators. So of course they had indicators in place, but also they understood that to measure the impact of some of the solutions we proposed and to have a bigger view of the impact of the new service we were co-creating with them, they had to create new indicators. Moving on. Let's explore the two use cases now that are within AKE Radar. So initially, this is an overall opportunity we mapped for the project, right? So we understood through research the clients, they wanted proximity. Remember, the main actor that guides them through the journey is the advisor. So they wanted, this was the advisors made AKE tangible for them. So they wanted proximity from AKE. They expected performance. Of course, we're talking about money, right? They want results, and they want predictability as well. And not only predictability, but they wanted AKE to be proactive with them as well in guiding them towards their goals. I see Jackson saying like this, so I guess I'm telling the right story. And then we also understood that trust, we're talking about money, so trust is a key factor here. And trust for these clients was a combination of things, right? So they wanted to experience this predictability. They wanted to see it in action. They wanted to receive transparent insights, and they wanted AKE to guide them towards their future intentions. So we are here today. These are our goals. How can we help you reach them? And of course, you can click, please. This was an opportunity, and we tried to work with it through many solutions. But today I'm going to explore a bit the AKE Radar. And the main goal of implementing the solutions that were within AKE Radar was so that AKE could measure customer performance and to be predictive in their portfolios and create a call to action. So, right, we are here, we want to measure your experience, we want to measure if you're reaching your financial goals or not, and how can we be predictive and help you move forward. So today I'm going to talk about these two solutions that are highlighted in orange: automated communications with portfolio status, so helping the client understand what was the status of the portfolio, and the health score, which is a very interesting and bold solution that AKE implemented. Moving forward. Thank you. So just to give you a bit of a context on each of the solutions, this automated communication was basically what we wanted is that AKE was going to be able to deliver to their customers a status of their portfolio with indicating if there were losses, if there were gains, and also guiding them to different solutions, different investments, right? For the clients, the benefits we saw was that we're going to have, okay, I understand what's going on with my portfolio. I don't have to ask for it, right? And I understand in a way that is personalized to my needs. So you can provide me in similar project investments that are catered to my needs. And for AKE, they were going to automate a simple process. And by that, they were going to gain time, precious time from the advisors, and that would allow them to use their capabilities in a smarter way. But to implement this, you can move to the next slide. AKE had to create different indicators. And these are the ones that I actually wanted to deliver to the clients. The indicator that said, how is your portfolio going, right? And the other one is if the client is adhering to the portfolio from a risk engagement perspective. So this indicator also helped the advisors to understand, hey, my client is within investments that they're comfortable with regarding risk or not, and help guide clients so they were within this their risk comfort zone. Jackson shared with us that creating both of this helped them guide clients toward their expectations, right? And therefore also probably improve their experience. You can click. Thank you. So by developing these indicators, they were able to create a personalized report for the clients, and they received positive feedback. And not only they received positive feedback because they were exposing some of the indicators to the clients, but also AKE was able to read better the situation, right? And understand how they were doing regarding clients' expectations. Next one. But to have this in place, it took almost 2 years, and it was challenging not only because it was one of the first projects that I mentioned in the beginning. That was one of the challenges was to set out all of the people. They had dependencies on a partner to get the right data to understand if the indicators were right. But they had positive outcomes, not only because they were able to be more transparent with clients, but also because together with other projects, started setting the pillars with many indicators that would then help AKE to create a larger indicator that was the health score. And you can move to the next one. And the health score was also something that came out of our project to support this big opportunity that we had, and to support AKE be more transparent with clients and be more proactive and give more predictability. And its intention was to understand customer success, so looking at their experience and also their portfolio in a way that they would set triggers and actions to prevent churn and improve the experience. You can move to the next one. But the health score was a set of multiple indicators. And for that, the first step AKE had to take was to define conceptually which indicators would inform the business that the client is healthy or not, right? So I just presented a case where they developed 2 different indicators that told them something, but they wanted to form something bigger and combining experience and performance, portfolio performance. So once they had these conversations and made these conceptual definitions, they had the challenge to connect different databases, which is also something that we saw as a challenge in the previous case, right? Because they wanted this data to converge and give them one unified score. Then they tested this. So they had a MVP, so to say, and they also tested with clients and tested internally to see if it was accurate. And then the score by itself doesn't give you anything, right? It gives you a set of information, but their goal was to set triggers with the score and that would turn into actions. So they wanted to prevent churn, but they also wanted to act on it. They wanted to act on to improve the customer experience. And they also tested this with some control groups. As I mentioned before, the health score is a basket with multiple indicators that combine indicators that talk about the experience, but also talk about the portfolio. And because these are the 2 main things that we understood that were very relevant for AKE and also for their clients. They have different weights of these indicators. We don't have the time, and I'm not able to tell you about the reasoning about the weight, but maybe Jackson can talk about later. And if you can move forward. So what they have is a score that ranges from 0 to 1,000. And of course, if the client is closer to 0, their propensity to churn is higher. They're probably less willing to make referrals. They're probably bringing less money, and the NPS is lower. And on the other spectrum, all the contrary, right? So we're seeing that lifetime value increases. They're probably willing to make more referrals and indicate other people to join AKE. They're probably putting more money. They're more willing to do so, and their NPS is higher. But as I mentioned before, having this in place was not enough, right? Because, okay, I see the score, but what do I do with that? And then you can move to the next slide. As I mentioned I think was the 4th step was to understand those triggers and set some actions. So just to exemplify it, what they did, they understood that for clients with scores below 350, this was a trigger that had to result in some actions. So that triggers advisors. So the advisors have to work with this client, understand what's going on, not only in their experience with AKE, but the portfolio performance, etc. And this sets a trigger that is very important because we understood in our project that advisor switch, it's a key moment in the customer journey, has huge impact. So either because an advisor leaves or because they move on to another area or to serve different kinds of clients, it was a friction moment with the clients. So we understood that if the client has a score 350 and below, advisor switch cannot happen until this score is improved, right? And they were able to, again, test different groups. One group where the clients had the contact, received the contact from the advisors, and one where they did not. And they understood that the churn in those that advisors did nothing with them, the churn rate was higher. So AKE has taken this approach to really try and test and evolve and iterate within their processes, right? So it's taken 2 years. You can move to the next one, please. But by implementing these different projects, generating different indicators, and being able to combine them in a larger one, they move towards delivering this new service journey that we co-created with them, and also to understand the business impact, and also understand how it was impacting the experience. They have seen after 2 years an increase by 15 points in their NPS, but they also understand that this is not a result of a single action or a single project. It's not necessarily because they started creating automated communication, but it's a combination of projects like this that I presented that might seem small, but bring different challenges to implement with other of these solutions. Next. They have shared with us that they see themselves in a more mature way regarding understanding the customer journey and how it is its connection to business objectives. So their main goal is, I have to serve well, so this client stays with me longer, doesn't churn, right? So it has direct impact in the business outcomes. They want less churn, of course. They have been able to create a robust indicator by working with smaller projects and combining them and having this larger view. And as I've mentioned, they've been constantly evolving. So they have come very far after 2 years and with many challenges and in this perspective of iterating. But they've shared with us, there are some indicators where we see the possibility of doing more, of understanding which other triggers and which other actions we can do that will guide us towards improving this experience. And to show that the success of this work that they have done, the health score is now one of the 5 indicators the CEO will be monitoring from next year on. They're changing a little bit their management model, and they will have 5 indicators. So this indicates a great success that started with their intention to, hey, we need to understand our customer, the customer experience, to create a new vision, a new service. And it was a very collaborative process, also as it was with the Novo Nordisk, right? Because it involves multiple areas, different people. But they have come very far. And yeah, that was the story I wanted to share. Thank you.
Many thanks, Cassia. Super exciting to see that kind of the baseline approach to having the metrics customer aligned can then actually become part of an indicator way almost the customer is experiencing that way of measuring because they're getting a different level of service based on those metrics, right? So that, you know, the metric is actually leading to a change in an individual customer's experience. And then on the other hand, for it to be going up to the chief exec and the board. So super cool. We've taken a little bit longer than we intended, so I'm just going to rattle through my recaps, which was just to say, you know, this is one part of seeing design as a change tool. I think I guess I know if I'd have seen this presentation when I started off in service design, I'd have been pretty amazed that we were getting this deep into metrics, but aligning it around people is critical, and how we can bring that to bear. Just to reiterate, you know, these are about design abilities. We've seen this kind of integrating perspectives about providing shape and actually defining a thing where these metrics become deployed and part of the experience. I think we've reframed the way measurements is done from being, you know, looked at it as a holistic thing rather than just kind of scattered around in different bits of organizations and orchestrated that coming together. So proof is in the pudding. So just to recap, we talked about how you might set these things up, how you might structure the measurement in advance of a program of work, but also how that then becomes part of that and even becomes part of how individual advisors are interacting with their clients. So again, thank you, everyone. We always take the opportunity to emphasize that change is never done. It's about establishing and setting yourselves up for continual evolution and improvement and adaptation. I've got a couple of questions. I think we've got a little bit of time. So just had one here from, sorry, just dealing with the tiny little screen here. So Bruno says, Cassia, do you think it's possible to take this approach to other sectors? So for example, retail.
Absolutely. I was actually trying to respond in the chat, but I think what Jackson brought to us and the question we've made together is, which are the set of indicators that are some that perhaps are mainly used, right? NPS, CSAT. For this specific case, portfolio performance was very important, not only for the business, but for the client as well, right? So which are the set of indicators that makes most sense for your business, right? And then you can understand and combine them. We don't have a quick model that works for everybody. Of course, perhaps on the experience, we know the most commonly used, but this is the question that you have to ask. And I'm going to take the chance to answer another question here. How did we create these indicators? Within the service journey, and as Christina mentioned, in our case as well, it was very in a collaborative way. So while we were in the project with them, it had to involve different areas because they know about the data that they have. They know about the indicators that they already have, and we can co-create new ones or drop a few.
Yeah. So Christina or Louise, anything to add on the creation of metrics and how you did that in practice? I mean, you said it was a cross-representation of the business, but
yeah, we indeed took all the data points, both existing, but also by kind of indeed running all those co-creation sessions involving all the different stakeholders in the organization, also coming up with new potential indicators, telling indeed the story of whether the outcome was achieved. So the starting point was always the outcome. So what the organization wants to achieve, what the kind of operations needs to achieve in indeed providing the hiring process in our story, as well as what do employees expect or need from the hiring process, to then indeed come up with data points telling the story of an overall story about the health of the service or process indeed. And I do also take the chance to provide at least my perspective on the next question, which is how do you use dashboards? In my experience, they are great at providing that and information, but not necessarily at providing insights and wisdom. And it is indeed about the combination of like collecting all these data points and try to interpret those. So data points are the starting point, but then the question is always, okay, what do they tell me? So what can I understand from the data points? And this is a combination of attitudinal data, but also like behavioral data. At least this has been our starting point as we indeed collaborated with Novo. I don't know if Louise, you wanna.
Yeah, sorry, I very much agree with that. But I think also from a very operational level, it's also about getting the right people in the room. And I think when we work with the hire journey, they have also set up some new what's the English word? Like the people responsible or managers from the different COEs, or they meet every month. There are new cadences of when they meet, and having this measurement framework at hand where they can see how are they doing across, and using that as a way to prioritize and really operationalizing it and prioritizing what should be improved going forward and where should we pay attention to. I think that's important to get the dashboards to really work right. Like it's also about new ways of collaborating and roles and responsibilities. So that's closely linked to that.
Yeah, just to build on that, on this point around it, data information versus kind of more insight. This is about knowing where you want to look. It's not necessarily telling you what to fix. So this is kind of how what we've found is important to connect the world of design, which is very much kind of focused on getting insight, but to the world of business and governance and program management, which wants to know, how are we performing and where are we performing or not performing, and therefore where is the problem? I got a thumbs up, thank you. Just want to offer Jackson the opportunity to jump in if you wish, without putting you on the spot, if there's anything any reflections you have, anything we haven't said that you'd like to add?
Oh, thank you, Ben. Congratulations, Cassia, to talk about the project. She was perfect, and it's a process. So sometimes hard to combine a lot of stakeholders together and discuss about the project and the impact, but it's worth in the end. So I think it was a journey, and we now looking the results, and a lot very happy to the achievements. So thank to for the invited, and I learned a lot of with you guys.
Thank you, Jackson.
Wonderful. I don't see any more questions. Just to let everyone know, we have recorded the session. We have to do a little bit of work, and then we can publish the video. There's also some articles on the LiveWork website around the metrics approach. So I hope this has given everyone something that they can take home and start to think about how you either bring design into change, or how you connect your design work to the measurement and management world. Thank you all very much for joining. It's really appreciated. We love to see people come and pay interest in what we've been doing. So have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.